The cosmic mockery. The Galactic Assembly had stood for 9,000 years as the pinnacle of interspecies cooperation. 217 sentient species, each with their own unique biologies, cultures, and contributions to the vast tapestry of cosmic civilization. Their combined technological prowess had conquered disease, enabled faster-than-light travel, and brought unprecedented prosperity to their member worlds. Then humanity showed up. Captain Elena Reyes stood at rigid attention before the Assembly's Admission Council, 5 beings of vastly different physiologies seated on elevated platforms that forced her to crane her neck upward. The symbolism wasn't subtle. Humans were to understand their place in the cosmic hierarchy, at the bottom. The Assembly has reached its decision regarding Earth's petition for membership, announced Councillor Vextral, his gelatinous form pulsating with bioluminescent patterns that the translation device rendered into crisp English. After much deliberation, we have decided to admit humanity on a probationary basis. Elena maintained her composure despite the wave of relief that washed over her. 3 years of negotiations, technological demonstrations, and diplomatic maneuvering had finally paid off. Earth would join the galactic community. The Assembly acknowledges humanity's unusual rate of technological development, continued Vextral, the slight pause carrying unmistakable undertones of suspicion. From atmospheric flight to rudimentary interstellar capability in less than 2 centuries is unprecedented. This raises questions. Questions that have been thoroughly addressed in our petition, Counselor, Elena replied, maintaining the diplomatic veneer she'd been trained to project. Human adaptability and innovation. Yes, interrupted Counselor Drezik, a tall avian being with iridescent plumage. We've heard the explanations. The Assembly's decision comes with conditions. Elena braced herself. Here it was, the catch. As is customary for provisional members, Earth will be granted a single vessel to represent humanity within the Assembly fleet, Drezik continued. This vessel will serve as your species' embassy, defense force, and primary means of interstellar transport. This was standard protocol, something Elena had expected. What she hadn't expected was the barely concealed amusement rippling through the council as Drezik tapped a series of controls. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing a ship that could only be described as pitiful. Its hull was a patchwork of mismatched metals, its proportions awkward and ungainly. Even to Elena's untrained eye, it looked like something cobbled together from salvage rather than a proper starship. The Penumbra, announced Drezik, a Class 4 exploration vessel from the early Assembly era. It has been recommissioned for your use. The emphasis on recommissioned wasn't lost on Elena. This wasn't a ship. It was an insult disguised as charity. The Penumbra served with distinction in its time, added Counselor Thrix, a crystalline entity whose tone belied the obvious falsehood. Consider it a gesture of the Assembly's confidence in human ingenuity. Muffled chitters, the equivalent of chuckles, rippled through the observation gallery where representatives from numerous species watched the proceedings. The mockery was now unmistakable. Elena swallowed her pride. Earth needed this alliance, needed access to the Assembly's technology and protection. The Sol system sat at the edge of disputed space, vulnerable to at least 3 non-Assembly powers that had made their territorial ambitions clear. On behalf of Earth, I accept this generous offer with gratitude, she stated, the diplomatic training overriding her personal indignation. Excellent. Vexatral's gelatinous form rippled with satisfaction. The Penumbra awaits at Docking Bay 47E. Your engineering team may begin familiarization immediately. As Elena left the chamber, the weight of what had just happened settled, fully upon her. She'd been sent to secure Earth a place among the stars and instead had accepted what amounted to a garbage scow as humanity's flagship. It's worse than it looked in the hologram, Chief Engineer Malik Rahman declared, his usually cheerful face twisted in dismay as he stared up at the Penumbra. The ship hunched in its berth like an abandoned industrial project, its hull a mishmash of different materials, some sections visibly patched and repatched. Compared to the sleek vessels docked nearby, it resembled a junkyard sculpture more than a functional spacecraft. "They're laughing at us," Dr. Sophia Chen, the mission's xenobiologist, muttered beside Elena. "This isn't just an old ship, it's deliberately humiliating." Elena nodded grimly. "Of course it is. They're testing us, seeing if we'll protest, make demands, or just run home crying." "So what do we do, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Commander Jackson, her tactical officer. Elena straightened her uniform and faced her team, 12 of Earth's brightest minds, sent to navigate humanity's entrance into galactic society. They looked back at her with a mixture of disappointment and uncertainty. "We do what humans have always done when underestimated," she said firmly. "We prove them wrong." The interior of the penumbra was, if possible, even more discouraging than its exterior. Corridors twisted at odd angles, evidently designed for beings with different proportions than humans. The life support systems wheezed and sputtered, maintaining only minimal functionality. The bridge was a confusing array of outdated control interfaces, many labeled in scripts so ancient that even the assembly's translation technology struggled with them. "Primary propulsion is offline," Malik reported after the first day of inspection. "Secondary systems are at maybe 15% efficiency. The navigational computer can barely calculate intrasystem jumps, let alone interstellar ones." "Weapons?" Elena asked Jackson. "What weapons?" he replied with a bitter laugh. "There's mounting points for defense arrays, but they've been stripped. We have some point defense lasers that might deter space debris, but that's about it." "Life support?" Dr. Chen grimaced. "It's keeping us alive, barely. The atmospheric filters are centuries out of date. We'd need to replace them completely for any journey longer than a few weeks." Elena absorbed the reports with a growing sense that this was worse than a mere insult. It was a deliberate setup for failure. The assembly hadn't just given them junk, they'd given them a death trap. "What about this?" asked Dr. Elias Novak, their theoretical physicist, pointing to an unusual component embedded in what appeared to be the ship's core. Unlike the rest of the vessel's systems, this device looked almost pristine, its housing made of a material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Unknown," Malik admitted, scanning it with his diagnostic tools. "It's integrated with the power distribution network, but doesn't appear to be drawing or supplying energy currently. The design architecture doesn't match anything else on the ship. The symbols are different too," noted Dr. Chen, examining markings etched into the device's surface. "This isn't standard assembly script." Elena felt a spark of curiosity cutting through her frustration. "Can we activate it?" Malik shook his head. "Not without understanding what it is first. For all we know, it could be a self-destruct mechanism. Or," Novak said thoughtfully, "it could be something the assembly doesn't understand either. Look at how it's installed, almost as an afterthought, patched into systems rather than integrated properly." "You think they don't know what it does?" Elena asked. "I think," Novak replied carefully, "that if they knew it was valuable, they wouldn't have left it on the ship they gave to us." Elena considered this. "Make this your priority, Elias. I want to know what this device is and what it does." "With all due respect, Captain," Malik interjected, "shouldn't our priority be getting basic systems online? Life support, propulsion, navigation, the things that keep us alive?" "Those too," Elena agreed. "But this device, I have a feeling about it." Word of humanity's gift spread quickly through the assembly station. Whenever Elena or her crew ventured out for supplies or information, they were met with barely concealed amusement from most species, and occasional genuine sympathy from a few. "They did the same to the Forvani," explained Thrisktal, a merchant from one of the assembly's newer member species. His four-armed frame leaned casually against a supply crate as he spoke with Elena. "Gave them an obsolete cruiser that couldn't even leave orbit without repairs. The Forvani abandoned it after 3 cycles and accepted client status under the Xylothians." "We're not abandoning anything," Elena said firmly. Thriskatal's facial appendages twitched in what she'd come to recognize as skepticism. The Assembly doesn't want new independent powers, Captain. They want client species who understand their place. Your ship isn't meant to succeed. It's meant to humble you until you accept patronage. Then they fundamentally misunderstand humans, Elena replied. We don't humble easily. 2 weeks into the restoration efforts, the first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Novak burst into the makeshift command center they'd established, his eyes wide with excitement. It's not a weapon, or a power source, or a propulsion system, he announced, waving data tablets around. It's all of them, or rather, it could be. Explain, Elena ordered, setting aside the supply inventories she'd been reviewing. The device is a field manipulator, Novak said, spreading schematics across the table. But not for any ordinary field. It manipulates quantum probability fields. Malik frowned. That's theoretical technology. Even Earth's most advanced labs have only achieved minimal results with quantum field manipulation. Exactly, Novak exclaimed. But this isn't theoretical. It's right here, built and installed, if crudely. From what I can determine, it was developed by a species called the Ardani, who were assembly members about 3,000 years ago. Were? Asked Dr. Chen. They apparently disappeared, Novak explained. Records are vague, but they were expelled from the assembly for dangerous experimentation with fundamental forces. After that, they vanished from galactic history. And they left their technology behind, Elena mused. Not intentionally, Novak clarified. This device was probably installed during repairs or modifications and then forgotten or misunderstood by later engineers. It's been dormant for centuries. Can we activate it? Elena asked. Novak hesitated. Theoretically, yes, but the power requirements are enormous, and we don't fully understand the principles it operates on. But you think it could help us? If it works as I believe it does, Novak said carefully, it could fundamentally alter our situation. Quantum probability manipulation could enhance every system on this ship beyond conventional limits. But the risks. Quantify them, Elena interrupted. Best case, we gain unprecedented control over the ship's systems. Worst case, we tear a hole in reality and destroy the station, possibly the surrounding space as well. Elena absorbed this. Work out safe testing parameters. I want a controlled activation within 3 days. Captain, Malik protested. We're talking about technology that got its creators expelled from the assembly. Maybe we should. The assembly gave us this ship as a joke, Elena cut in. They don't expect us to succeed. They certainly don't expect us to uncover and master technology they themselves don't understand. That gives us an advantage. Or it gets us killed, Malik muttered. Humanity didn't get this far by playing it safe, Chief, Elena replied with a grim smile. And we're not going to secure our place among the stars by using only the tools our competitors understand and approve of. As her team dispersed to continue their work, Elena gazed at the schematics of the mysterious device. The assembly had meant to humble humanity with the gift of the penumbra. Instead, they might have inadvertently given Earth the key to changing its cosmic destiny. In the shadowy corners of the docking bay, unnoticed by the human crew, observation devices recorded their every move, transmitting data back to various interested parties within the assembly hierarchy. The humans' interest in the Ardani device had not gone unnoticed, and in the grand chambers of power, the first flickers of concern began to replace amusement. The cosmic mockery was about to backfire, in ways no one could have predicted. The impossible revival. Quantum field initialization in 3, 2, 1. Dr. Novak's voice was steady despite the tension that gripped everyone in the penumbra's makeshift control center. After days of calculations, simulations, and safety preparations, they were finally activating the mysterious Ardani device. At minimum power and under the most controlled conditions possible, Captain Elena Reyes held her breath as Novak pressed the final sequence of commands. Nothing happened. Then, everything happened. The ship's lights, which had been operating at emergency levels, suddenly blazed with full intensity. Displays that had been dark or flickering stabilized instantly. The persistent labored wheeze of the life support system transformed into a smooth, almost inaudible hum. Power levels are impossible, Malik stammered, staring at his readings. We're seeing a 400% increase in energy efficiency across all systems. The quantum field is somehow optimizing energy transfer at the subatomic level. Elena felt the deck beneath her feet. The subtle vibration that had pervaded the ship since they'd boarded it was gone, replaced by an eerie stillness, as if the penumbra had shifted from a dying machine to a living organism. Life support is fully operational, Dr. Chen reported, with astonishment. Atmospheric quality is better than Earth standard, and the filtration system, it's not just functioning, it's regenerating damaged components. How is that possible? Elena asked, turning to Novak. The physicist's face was illuminated with a mixture of wonder and scientific excitement. The quantum field doesn't just manipulate energy, it manipulates probability. It's nudging quantum states toward optimal configurations. Systems that had a 1% chance of working correctly now have a 99% chance. You're saying it's making the ship lucky? Lieutenant Commander Jackson asked skeptically. In layman's terms, yes, Novak confirmed. But it's not random luck, it's directed, focused on maintaining and improving system functionality. Elena walked to the main viewport, gazing out at the assembly station beyond. Their gift ship had been assigned the most distant, least prestigious docking position, visible to all as an object of ridicule. She wondered how many eyes were watching now, how many instruments were detecting the unprecedented energy readings emanating from what was supposed to be a derelict vessel. Increase power to the field by 10%, she ordered. Malik looked up sharply. Captain, we should run diagnostics first. Make sure we can run diagnostics while increasing power, Elena interrupted. I want to know what this ship can really do. News of the penumbra's sudden resurrection spread through the assembly station like wildfire. Within hours, representatives from various species found reasons to pass by the human vessel's docking bay, observing the transformation with reactions ranging from curiosity to alarm. The ship's exterior had begun to change. The mismatched hull, plates once a visual testament to the vessel's cobbled-together nature, were somehow aligning, the metals flowing subtly to create more harmonious connections. The structural integrity had improved to the point where the ship no longer seemed to sag in its berth. It now sat with a purposeful, almost predatory stance. The Ardani device is affecting the physical structure, Novak explained during their third day of testing. It's creating quantum entanglement between disparate materials, essentially persuading them to behave as a unified whole. Is it safe? Elena asked, watching as a hull section that had been corroded beyond repair yesterday now gleamed with a dull, healthy sheen. Defies safety classifications, Novak admitted. Nothing about this technology fits within standard parameters. But it's not showing any signs of instability or dangerous radiation. Counselor Vexitral has requested a meeting, Captain, Dr. Chen announced, entering the bridge with a troubled expression. Actually, demanded might be more accurate. Elena nodded. I expected this. They've noticed our renovations. What's our position here? Asked Jackson. Legally, I mean. The assembly gave us this ship. They can't complain if we got it working. It's not about legality, Elena replied. It's about power dynamics. They gave us this ship expecting it to keep us humble and dependent. We're disrupting their narrative. The meeting with Vexistral took place in a neutral conference room on the station. The counselor's gelatinous form pulsated with patterns that Elena had learned to recognize as agitation. Captain Reyes, the assembly has concerns about the modifications you're making to the penumbra, Vextral began without preamble. Modifications? Elena replied innocently. We're simply restoring systems to operational status, as would be expected of any responsible crew. Our sensors indicate energy signatures inconsistent with standard restoration procedures, Vexitral countered. Specifically, we've detected quantum-level anomalies that suggest activation of restricted technologies. Elena maintained a neutral expression. The penumbra contains numerous systems unfamiliar to human engineering. We're learning as we go. The device you've activated, Vextral's tone shifted to one of unmistakable warning. is not approved for use within assembly jurisdiction. It must be deactivated immediately. I'm afraid I don't know what device you're referring to, Counselor, Elena replied calmly. As I said, we're simply working with the systems that were present on the ship when it was generously gifted to humanity. Vextrals. Bioluminescent patterns flashed in patterns that the translator didn't attempt to convert. The assembly did not authorize the activation of Ardani technology. Such action constitutes a violation of safety protocols established after the quantum disasters of the Seventh Era. Interesting. Elena leaned forward slightly. When the Penumbra was assigned to Earth, we were provided with no inventory of restricted technologies, no warnings about specific systems, and no operational manuals of any kind. If the assembly was aware of dangerous technology aboard the vessel, surely that information would have been shared during the transfer. Vextral's form rippled uncomfortably. The technology should have been removed during recommissioning. But it wasn't, Elena stated flatly, which suggests either negligence on the part of assembly technicians or she let the implication hang in the air. Or what, Captain Reyes? Vextral demanded. Or the assembly deliberately provided Earth with a vessel containing technology it knew to be restricted without proper warnings or safeguards, Elena finished, which would constitute a far more serious violation of assembly protocols than our activation of systems integral to our ship. The counselor's translucent body clouded briefly before resuming its normal transparency. The assembly requires immediate inspection access to the Penumbra. Of course, Elena agreed readily. As soon as we've completed safety protocols, the quantum transitions currently in progress could be dangerous if interrupted. Our science team estimates 3 standard days before external inspection would be safe. This was a complete fabrication, but Elena needed time. Vextral knew it, too, but couldn't prove it without the very inspection being delayed. 3 days, the counselor conceded reluctantly, after which a full assembly inspection team will board and assess the situation. If restricted technologies are confirmed to be in operation, they will be disabled and removed. We look forward to the visit, Elena replied with diplomatic formality. We have 3 days before they try to take our ship apart, Elena announced to her senior staff upon returning to the Penumbra. Options? We could power down the quantum field manipulator, Mullick suggested, return the ship to its previous state and play dumb. They'd still find the device and remove it, Novak pointed out, and we'd lose the one advantage we've gained. We could leave, Jackson proposed. The propulsion systems are operational now. We could break dock and head for Earth. And start an interstellar incident that could lead to war? Elena shook her head. Earth isn't ready for conflict with the assembly. There's another option, Novak said hesitantly. We could fully integrate the quantum field technology, not just activate it, but incorporate it into every system on the ship. What would that achieve? Elena asked. The Ardani device isn't just improving our existing systems, it's fundamentally altering how they interact with reality, Novak explained. Full integration could transform the Penumbra into something unprecedented, something that operates by different rules than conventional assembly technology. That sounds dangerous, Dr. Chen observed. It is, Novak acknowledged. The Ardani were expelled from the assembly for a reason, but I've been studying the device's architecture and historical records. I believe the Ardani weren't dangerous because their technology failed. They were dangerous because it succeeded too well. Elena considered this. You think the assembly feared them? I think the assembly feared what their technology represented, Novak corrected. A different path of technological evolution, one that manipulated fundamental reality rather than simply working within established physical laws. How quickly could we complete this integration? Elena asked. With the quantum field already enhancing our capabilities? 72 hours, give or take. Elena nodded slowly. Our exact deadline, that's cutting it close. Too close, Malik argued. Captain, we're talking about completely reworking a starship's systems based on technology. We barely understand. The risk is considerable, Elena finished for him. So is the risk of losing our only advantage in a galaxy that's already decided humanity's role. She turned to Novak. Begin the integration process. I want round-the-clock work, with safety protocols and emergency shutdown capabilities at every stage. And if the assembly inspection team arrives before we're finished? Jackson asked. Elena's expression hardened. Then we'll need to be very, very persuasive. The integration proceeded at a pace that would have been impossible without the quantum field's enhancement of both the ship's systems and the human crew's efforts. Components reconfigured themselves under Novak's guidance. Materials that should have been incompatible somehow found harmony. Even the ship's computer systems, once sluggish and limited, expanded in capability, developing predictive algorithms that anticipated the engineers' needs. On the second day, disaster nearly struck, when a power surge threatened to collapse the quantum field. For 17 critical minutes, the penumbra's lights flickered and systems faltered. Assembly sensors would have detected the fluctuation, but by the time any response was mobilized, Malik and his team had stabilized the field and strengthened the containment parameters. By the end of the third day, the transformation was complete, and not a moment too soon. The assembly inspection team, led by Vexitral himself, arrived at the penumbra's airlock precisely on schedule. Captain Reyes. The counselor's gelatinous form pulsated with barely contained suspicion as Elena greeted the 12-member team, representing 7 different assembly species. We are here to conduct the agreed-upon inspection. Of course, Counselor, Elena replied cordially. The penumbra welcomes representatives of the assembly. I must advise, however, that some systems may appear unfamiliar. We've had to adapt certain technologies to human operational parameters. This was, of course, a vast understatement. The interior of the penumbra now barely resembled the derelict they'd been assigned. Corridors had realigned themselves for more efficient movement. Control interfaces had simplified, becoming more intuitive. Even the air felt different, cleaner, somehow more energizing. As the inspection team moved through the ship, their reactions evolved from professional curiosity to growing concern. Their scanning devices produced conflicting readings. Materials registered as standard alloys while simultaneously displaying properties that should have been impossible for those compositions. What have you done to the propulsion system? Demanded a Zilothian engineer, their insectoid appendages clicking rapidly as they examined the engine room. These configurations violate fundamental principles of unified field theory. We've optimized them for efficiency, Malik explained blandly. Reduced energy wastage, improved thrust-to-consumption ratios. Impossible, the Zilothian insisted. These readings suggest your efficiency exceeds theoretical maximums by 17%. Human engineering. Malik shrugged. We have different approaches to theoretical limits. The inspection grew increasingly tense as it approached the ship's core, where the Ardani device, now fully integrated and virtually unrecognizable, hummed quietly at the heart of the penumbra's systems. This is not the original quantum field manipulator, Vexitral stated, their translucent body darkening with anger. You've modified restricted technology. We've worked with the systems that were present on our assigned vessel, Elena replied, maintaining the careful fiction that they hadn't understood what they were activating. If specific components were restricted, that information should have been provided during the transfer. The device in its original form was dangerous enough, a crystalline engineer from the inspection team interjected. This integration is unprecedented. The Council will need to. The engineer never finished their statement. At that moment, the station's alert system activated, sirens wailing throughout the docking bay. Unidentified vessels approaching, announced the station's automated system. All ships prepare for defensive measures. Elena's communication device chimed with an incoming transmission from the station's command center. Captain Reyes, came the urgent voice of the station's security chief. Your vessel's sensors are detecting anomalies that our systems cannot resolve. We require immediate assistance. Vextral's translator struggled to convey the complex emotions, rippling through the counselor's gelatinous form. What is the meaning of this? Unknown, Counselor, Elena replied, already moving toward the bridge. But if the station is under threat, the Penumbra stands ready to assist. The inspection team followed in confusion as Elena and her crew took their positions on the bridge, a space that now hummed with technologies far beyond what should have been possible on their assigned vessel. 3 ships dropping out of FTL. At the system's edge, reported Jackson, monitoring the enhanced sensor systems. Configuration unknown, but energy signatures suggest significant weapons capability. The station's defenses? Elena asked. Substantial, but response time is delayed. They weren't expecting hostilities in assembly space. Elena made a swift decision. Take us out, Lieutenant. Position the Penumbra between the approaching vessels and the station. Captain, Vextral protested, this vessel is not authorized for defensive operations. The assembly fleet is 20 minutes away at best, Elena interrupted. Those ships will reach weapons range in 5. She turned to the counselor, her expression deadly serious. The Penumbra was assigned as Earth's representative vessel. We're representing. Before Vexitral could object further, the Penumbra's docking clamps disengaged. The ship moved with a grace and speed that belied its origins, sliding from its berth and accelerating toward the approaching threat. In the assembly's grand chambers, representatives watched in stunned silence as the vessel they had mockingly gifted to humanity transformed from an object of ridicule into the station's first line of defense. The cosmic joke had developed an unexpected punchline. The human variable 3. Warships bearing unfamiliar insignia decelerated from faster-than-light travel, their sleek predatory forms announcing hostile intent more clearly than any formal declaration. They moved with coordinated precision, spreading out to approach the assembly station from multiple vectors. Configuration analysis complete, Lieutenant Commander Jackson announced on the Penumbra's bridge. Ships match partial signatures of Vraxian design but with significant modifications. Vraxian? Elena questioned, the name unfamiliar. An expelled assembly species, Vextral's translator conveyed the mixture of surprise and concern in the counselor's voice. They were removed from membership 4 centuries ago for territorial aggression against younger species. Well, seems they've decided to pay a visit to their old friends, Elena remarked, studying the tactical display. The Penumbra's enhanced sensors provided details that would have been impossible for standard assembly technology. Quantum-level analysis of the approaching vessel's shield harmonics, weapon energy signatures, and structural vulnerabilities. They're hailing us, reported Communications Officer Diaz. On screen, Elena ordered. The main display flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with distinctive ridged facial features and mottled gray skin. Assembly vessel, the figure began, then paused, clearly confused by the sight of human crew members. You are not assembly. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth vessel Penumbra. You're approaching an assembly station in a manner consistent with hostile intent. State your purpose. The Vraxian commander's expression shifted to one of amusement. Earth, the new species. How interesting that they've sent their pets to intercept us. He addressed his next words to Vextral, visible at the edge of the transmission field. Counselor, the Vraxian Imperium claims this sector by right of original discovery. The Assembly's expansion stops here. The Assembly does not recognize Vraxian claims, Vextral replied stiffly. This station is protected by interstellar law and the full might of the Assembly fleet. The fleet that is currently deployed to the Cygnus arm, the Vraxian countered. We've chosen our moment well, Counselor. By the time your reinforcements arrive, this station will be under our control. A suitable bargaining chip for negotiations. Elena assessed the situation rapidly. The Vraxian commander was right. Assembly reinforcements wouldn't arrive in time. The station's defenses were substantial but designed primarily to deter piracy and minor threats, not a coordinated attack by military vessels. Perhaps we can come to an arrangement, Elena suggested, buying time as she signaled Jackson to prepare defensive systems. The Vraxian laughed. The human wishes to negotiate. With what leverage? Your vessel is a decommissioned relic. Our scans show it shouldn't even be capable of station keeping, let alone presenting any threat to Vraxian warships. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Your scans might be outdated. She cut the transmission with a gesture and turned to her crew. Battle stations. Activate quantum defense protocols. The Penumbra's response was immediate and profound. The quantum field that had been integrated throughout the ship's systems intensified, creating a shimmering distortion that rippled across the hull. Power flowed in patterns that defied conventional physics, optimizing shield configuration, weapon, capacitance, and structural integrity simultaneously. They're arming weapons, Jackson reported. Hold position, Elena ordered. Let them make the first move. The Vraxian commander obliged. A brilliant lance of energy erupted from the lead vessel, striking the Penumbra's newly established shields. Conventional wisdom dictated that a ship of the Penumbra's class should have been crippled by such an attack. Instead, the energy dissipated across the quantum field, creating a spectacular display of light but inflicting zero damage. Shield integrity at 100%, Malik reported with undisguised amazement. The quantum field didn't just block the attack, it redistributed the energy across probability states effectively, making the direct hit less probable. Elena nodded. Return fire, minimal yield. I want to demonstrate capability, not destroy them outright. The Penumbra's response came not from conventional weapon emplacements but from the quantum field itself, a focused pulse of energy, more a distortion in reality than a traditional weapon discharge, struck the lead Vraxian vessel with surgical precision. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Systems across the target ship flickered and failed, as probability fields collapsed into least favorable states. Weapons went offline. Shields fluctuated wildly. Even the hull integrity appeared compromised, though no physical damage was visible. What did we just do to them? Diaz asked, staring at the readings. We introduced quantum uncertainty into their systems, Novak explained, his voice filled with scientific wonder. Rather than attacking their ship directly, we attacked the probability of their systems functioning correctly. We essentially made them unlucky. The implications of this were not lost on anyone present, especially Vex's trawl, whose gelatinous form had gone completely still, a sign of profound shock in his species. Target vessel attempting to restore systems, Jackson reported. The other two are altering course, flanking maneuver. Intercept, Elena ordered calmly. Full quantum field engagement. The Penumbra moved with impossible grace, its propulsion systems operating beyond theoretical efficiency limits. Rather than conventional engines pushing against space, the ship seemed to glide through probability states, appearing where it was most likely to intercept the Vraxian vessels. The battle that followed defied traditional space combat tactics. The Penumbra didn't just evade enemy fire, it made enemy fire miss by subtly altering the quantum probabilities governing weapon accuracy. It didn't just target vulnerable systems, it created vulnerabilities by collapsing favorable probability states across enemy vessels. Within minutes, all three Vraxian warships were effectively disabled, their systems in chaos, their weapons offline, their very hulls seemingly uncertain about maintaining structural integrity. Vraxian commander hailing us, Diaz announced. The main screen, activated to show the Vraxian leader, his composure shattered, his bridge in disarray behind him. What have you done to our ships? This isn't possible. Surrender your vessels and withdraw from this sector, Elena stated, firmly, or we will be forced to demonstrate the full capabilities of our technology. The bluff was necessary. In truth, the Penumbra's systems were strained to their limits, the quantum field fluctuating as the crew struggled to maintain control over forces they barely understood. But the Vraxian had no way of knowing this. We accept your terms, the commander replied, his earlier arrogance replaced with poorly concealed fear. Allow us to restore minimal propulsion for withdrawal. Elena nodded to Jackson, who adjusted the quantum field to permit the Vraxian ship's limited functionality, enough to limp away, but not enough to pose any further threat. As the enemy vessels retreated, a stunned silence fell over the Penumbra's bridge. The magnitude of what they had accomplished, A single retrofitted ship defeating 3 modern warships without sustaining any damage was almost beyond comprehension. Vextral broke the silence, their translator struggling to convey the complex mixture of emotions rippling through their gelatinous form. Captain Reyes, the assembly will require an explanation for what has occurred here today. Elena turned to face the counselor. I believe the explanation is simple, counselor. Humanity defended an assembly station against hostile forces using the vessel that was assigned to us. That vessel, Vextral replied, no longer resembles anything the assembly authorized. The technology you have deployed violates numerous treaties and safety protocols. With respect, counselor, Elena countered, the technology was already aboard the ship when it was given to us. If the assembly objects to its use, perhaps they should have removed it before assignment, or at minimum, warned us of its presence. The emergency session of the full Assembly Council convened 12 hours later. Representatives from all 217 member species filled the Grand Chamber, an unprecedented gathering prompted by events that had sent shockwaves throughout Galactic society. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, the focal point of thousands of alien gazes. Behind her, displayed on the chamber's massive holographic projectors, floated the penumbra, transformed from a derelict into something that now commanded the wary respect of the galaxy's oldest powers. The Council has reviewed the events surrounding the Vraxian incursion, announced High Counselor Genva, an ancient being whose crystalline form glittered with accumulated wisdom. We have also examined preliminary reports on the modifications made to the vessel Penumbra. Modifications is an inadequate term, interjected Counselor Drezik, the avian being who had initially presented the ship to humanity with barely concealed mockery. They have fundamentally altered reality manipulation technology that was restricted after the quantum disasters. Technology that was left aboard a vessel deliberately assigned to humans, Elena pointed out calmly. We operated with the resources provided to us. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as many representatives recognized the uncomfortable truth in her words. The Penumbra had indeed been assigned as a joke, a cosmic mockery meant to put humans in their place. That it had instead become a demonstration of human ingenuity and adaptability was an irony lost on no one. Regardless of how this situation arose, Genva continued, the Council faces an unprecedented situation. Ardani quantum field technology, which was contained and controlled after their departure from Galactic society, has now been not merely reactivated, but enhanced and integrated in ways our scientists do not fully understand. The solution is obvious, Drezik declared. The technology must be confiscated and the vessel returned to assembly control for proper decommissioning. Elena remained silent, allowing the counselors to reveal their positions before responding. She noticed with interest that not all species represented appeared to support Drezik's proposal. Some were watching the proceedings with what she had learned to recognize as expressions of cautious approval or even admiration. If I may address the Council, came an unexpected voice. Thrisktal, the four-armed merchant who had spoken with Elena weeks earlier, stepped forward from the observer's gallery. The representative from Forvan may speak, Genva acknowledged. My species was the last to receive a probationary vessel. Before humanity, Thrisktal stated, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Like Earth, we were assigned a derelict, a symbol of our supposed inferiority within the assembly hierarchy. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably as Thrisktal continued. Unlike humanity, we accepted the implicit message. We abandoned our independence, became a client species under Zelothian protection. Many believed this was the only realistic path for new species entering galactic society. He gestured toward Elena and the image of the penumbra. Humanity has demonstrated another path. They took what was meant to humble them and transformed it through ingenuity and determination. I submit that any action to penalize this achievement would reveal the Assembly's gesture for what it truly was. Not a welcome to a new species, but an attempt to ensure their subordination. A profound silence fell over the chamber as representatives contemplated these words. Elena recognized a pivotal moment when she saw one. The Assembly stands at a crossroads. She addressed the Council directly. The penumbra represents more than a ship or a technology. It represents a philosophy. Humanity doesn't view the universe as fixed and immutable. We see possibility, probability, potential for change. She paused, making eye contact with as many different species as possible. The Ardani understood this. Their technology wasn't dangerous because it failed. It was feared because it succeeded too well. It challenged the established order, just as humanity's approach challenges the established hierarchy. High Counselor Zenva's crystalline form refracted light in patterns that suggested deep contemplation. "What do you propose, Captain Reyes?" "A new relationship," Elena replied without hesitation. "Not one of patrons and clients, not one of established powers and supplicants, but one of genuine collaboration. Earth brings perspectives that the Assembly needs: adaptability, innovation, willingness to challenge assumptions. In return, we need the Assembly's wisdom, experience, and stabilizing influence." She gestured to the penumbra. "This ship was meant as a joke. We transformed it into something unprecedented. Imagine what we could accomplish together if cooperation replaced condescension." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some supportive, others outraged. Species that had held unquestioned dominance for thousands of years faced the uncomfortable prospect of a genuinely equal newcomer. Others, particularly those who had themselves once been welcomed with similar patronizing gestures, found in humanity's stand an echo of their own suppressed ambitions. For hours, the debate raged. Proposals were made and rejected, from the confiscation of the penumbra to the expulsion of humanity from assembly space. Throughout it all, Elena stood firm, neither apologizing for humanity's achievement nor threatening to use their newfound capabilities against the Assembly. Finally, as the chamber's artificial day cycle began to wane, High Counselor Zenva raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "The Council has reached a decision," they announced. "The vessel Penumbra will remain under Earth's command, with the following conditions. First, quantum field technology will be subject to joint research protocols between human and Assembly scientists. Second, the Penumbra will serve a dual role, as Earth's representative vessel and as part of the Assembly's defensive fleet, with operational parameters to be determined through mutual agreement." Elena kept her expression neutral, though inwardly she felt a surge of triumph. This was more than she had hoped for, not just acceptance, but recognition of humanity's value to the wider galactic community. "Third," Zenva continued, "the practice of assigning deliberately inferior vessels to probationary members will end, effective immediately. All species deserve the dignity of proper tools for their representatives." This last condition drew murmurs of approval from many quarters of the chamber, particularly from newer Assembly members. "Earth accepts these terms," Elena responded formally. "We look forward to demonstrating that humanity's place in the galaxy will benefit all species, not just our own." 6 months later, Elena stood on the Penumbra's observation deck, watching as ships from a dozen different species maneuvered in formation around a newly detected spatial anomaly. The Joint Task Force, with the Penumbra as its flagship, represented a fundamental shift in how the Assembly approached both threats and opportunities. "Captain," Novak approached, tablet in hand. "The latest results from the quantum field research team. The Ardani left more hints in their technology than we initially realized. It appears they didn't disappear from history. They evolved beyond conventional space-time." Elena studied the findings with interest. "They used the quantum field technology to transcend physical limitations?" "It appears so," Novak confirmed. "And they left breadcrumbs for others to potentially follow if they were innovative enough to understand what they'd created." The Assembly feared they were collapsing reality, Elena mused, when in fact, they were expanding it. "A matter of perspective," Novak observed. "To established powers, fundamental change always looks like destruction." Elena turned her gaze back to the viewport, where Assembly ships now moved in harmony with human protocols, combining ancient wisdom with fresh innovation. The ship that had been meant as a cosmic mockery had become the symbol of a new era, one where humanity's place among the stars was defined not by humility, but by the audacity to reimagine what was possible. Send these findings to the Joint Research Committee, she instructed, and prepare the quantum drive for the next phase of exploration. If the Ardani left a path for us to follow, I think we owe it to them and to ourselves to see where it leads. As the penumbra's enhanced systems hummed around her, Elena reflected on how quickly the galaxy had changed. The aliens had given humans the weakest ship in the fleet, expecting submission. Instead, they'd witnessed transformation, not just of a vessel, but of the very concepts that had governed interstellar relations for millennia. The cosmic mockery had backfired spectacularly, and somewhere in the quantum probability fields that humanity now navigated with growing confidence, Elena sensed that the Ardani were watching, and perhaps approving. For it wasn't superior technology or ancient wisdom that had changed the galaxy's course, it was the human variable, the unpredictable element that took limitations and saw only possibilities. The universe would never be the same.